A search team was going through the forest, looking for two people who had vanished. Deep in the woods, there was a strange hole where some dogs had fallen in. Near that hole, the dogs discovered a cave and drank from a pool inside. Meanwhile, one of the searchers stumbled upon the dogs, but something about them was off. They just stood still, staring at each other oddly. He brought them home and put them in a cage. Yet the dogs didn't break their gaze, frozen in place. Then unexpectedly, one of them began to make unusual sounds. Later that evening, the man's son heard the dogs whimpering nonstop and told his father. The father went to where the dogs were and witnessed something disturbing. The dogs' bodies had begun to fuse into one another. Elsewhere, a man named Tim is flipping through old family photos. His girlfriend Millie arrived, reminding him everyone was waiting outside. It was a farewell party.
Babe?
Yeah, just give me a sec.
Tim then go out and the couple starts interacting with the guests. The two of them are going to move to the countryside.
Mainly excited about the next step in our lives together.
In front of their guests, Millie surprised Tim by proposing. Stunned and caught completely off guard, he stood there in silence. Embarrassed, Millie got up without an answer. Tim eventually said yes, but the moment had already turned awkward. That night, Tim apologized for how things played out. He hadn't meant to humiliate her. Millie, however, began to question whether their love was real.
You've never made me feel unsure before.
She suggested it might be easier to go their separate ways now, before things got harder. Tim insisted they still had something worth holding on to.
I love you. I love you.
I love you too.
Later, Millie mentioned seeing strange people watching them. Tim looked toward the door and saw a woman crying, who then appeared under the blanket, but he realized he'd been dreaming. He stepped outside to clear his head and found Millie coming back with stuff she bought. As they unpacked in their countryside home, Tim noticed a foul smell coming from upstairs. He followed it and eventually traced it to the ceiling. Standing on a chair, he discovered a clump of decaying rats tied together. One of them, oddly enough, was still alive.
I found it.
What?
Oh, shit.
He then took them off and threw them away. Later that day, Millie began her new job teaching. At the school, she met Jaime, a fellow teacher, who greeted her warmly. The two clicked right away.
Help these kids as individuals.
Passion. Almost forgot what that was like.
Jaime seemed puzzled, though. He couldn't understand why someone like Millie would choose a small rural school. During their chat, they discovered an odd coincidence. Jaime lived right across from her and Tim.
In the yellow house on the corner.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
That evening, Tim plays his guitar. He's a musician and spends each night strumming melodies before bed. He is still startled by the rats he found earlier, too. The next morning, he and Millie decided to explore the area with a hike through the nearby woods. They ventured off the trail and soon realized they'd taken a wrong turn. While figuring out their way, Tim noticed an odd bell, suspended eerily among the trees.
We can always turn back. It's so nice out.
Curious, they followed the path. But the deeper they went, the more disoriented they became. When they finally decided to head back, they couldn't retrace their steps. They were lost. Tim pulled out a compass, but it was no help. He suggested they keep moving forward, hoping to stumble across something familiar.
Yeah, but what if we just keep going sort of southeast-ish?
We just think for a second.
Moments later, the ground gave way beneath him. He fell into a hole and Millie rushed to help. In the struggle, they both slipped and fell in, fortunately without injury.
Hey, sorry, you okay?
Yeah, okay.
You sure?
Okay.
Inside, Millie tried calling for help, but there was no cell service. A strange sense crept over them as they looked around. With no exit in sight, they chose to stay put and wait out the night. Tim found some wood nearby and started to assemble it for a fire.
What are you doing?
Remember when we used to watch Man vs. Wild?
Millie made fun of him and kicked the wood. They both were thirsty. Tim handed Millie the last of their drinking water before turning to the murky pool nearby. Cupping his hands, he drank from it, then filled his bottle and kept drinking until he was satisfied. Later, as they sat together, smoking, Tim appeared distant. When Millie asked what was on his mind, he confessed that the smell from earlier, the rotten rats, had stirred something dark from his past. He told her about a childhood memory. One day his father came to him and told him to clean his room.
because he says there's a smell. So I clean it.
The next day, his father told him to clean his room again because the smell was there. No matter how much Tim cleaned, his father was never satisfied. One day when Tim came back from school, he found his father grinning in his room. He had found the source of smell, and it was a dead rat nesting in the warm light.
Couldn't even tell that I was breathing in this rotting carcass every night.
And then he told her of another incident. He once again smelled something rotting and walked into his parents' room only to find his mother smiling strangely, broken by grief after his father's death. His father's body is rotting next to her.
Still going to bed each night next to that face and the horrible smell.
Her mind hadn't been able to cope. That moment and that smell had haunted him ever since. He still dreamt about it.
Window open between our house and that night.
Eventually, they drifted off to sleep in the cave, but something stirred nearby. Ripples formed in the pool as something crept toward them. Tim woke up, heart pounding. Then he noticed something bizarre. A vine hanging above him pulsed in sync with his breath. Millie, beside him, gasped for air. But before panic could fully set in, Tim snapped out of it. It had only been a nightmare.
Only you could sleep in.
When they tried to stand, they discovered their legs were fused together, bonded by some unknown force. With effort and pain, they pulled apart. Their skin tore in the process, though they didn't notice right away. They climbed out of the cave and somehow found their way back home. Later, Millie asked Tim for a shoulder massage. As he touched her, a strange desire overcame him. He lost control and gripped her tightly until she pulled away. Embarrassed, Tim apologized and retreated to the shower. Meanwhile, Millie left to run errands in town. While she drove, something strange began happening to Tim. The farther she went, the more his body reacted, as though their physical states were linked. Each of her movements sent waves through him. His limbs convulsed, and his head slammed into the bathroom tiles. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. He woke up on the floor, shaken and confused. Panicked, Tim sought help. A doctor listened, then offered a diagnosis: mental strain brought on by relocation stress and emotional upheaval. But Tim wasn't convinced.
So even if your brain starts panicking, your body relaxes, shutting down the feedback loop.
While speaking with the doctor, Tim learned something unsettling. Months ago, a couple had gone missing in the same area. The mention stuck with him. Back home, curiosity took over. Tim began digging into the missing persons case online. Millie returned to find him deep in research. They skimmed through the couple's profiles before shifting to their own posts.
Maybe a sad one to end it on, though.
What wouldn't be?
Their quiet evening was interrupted by a knock. It was Jaime, Millie's co-worker and their new neighbor, dropping by to welcome them properly.
Oh, no, I don't want to intrude.
Mr. McCabe, I insist you intrude.
Over dinner, Tim and Millie recounted their bizarre cave experience. Jaime listened intently, then mentioned that the cave was once used by a fringe spiritual group, a kind of alternative chapel, until it collapsed during a storm years ago. He chalked it up to bad luck and erosion.
Hard to recruit new members when your house of worship becomes a subterranean lair.
Later that night, Tim and Millie grew close, but as they kissed, something strange happened. Their lips seemed to stick together unnaturally. Millie recoiled, thinking Tim had bitten her.
Ow! Did you just bite me?
He tried to explain what he was feeling, strange urges he couldn't control, but she dismissed it as stress.
Guy, if you don't want to f me, Tim, just say it.
In the middle of the night, Millie woke up to a horrifying sight. Tim was choking on her hair. She tried to pull it away, but the strands only wrapped tighter, cutting off his breath. With effort, they finally separated, both wide-eyed and shaken. Morning came. Tim, eager to follow through on a music gig, prepared to leave. Millie objected. She felt they needed to talk about last night, but Tim was adamant.
Come on, I can't miss the train.
Tim doesn't have a driving license, so she drove him to the station, and before he left, told him not to rush back that night. Maybe some time with friends would help him clear his mind.
Escape! Be free!
Okay, yeah, you're right.
As soon as she drove off, the symptoms returned. His hallucinations flared again, stronger this time. The farther she went, the worse he became. He missed his train, unable to function, and ended up stumbling his way to the school where Millie worked. She rushed to meet him and helped him into a restroom. Their emotions overwhelmed them both. What started as a moment of passion quickly turned into something unnatural. Their bodies clung to each other, quite literally, and wouldn't separate.
Wait, I'm stuck.
Ow! It hurts.
They struggled in panic. A student heard them. Eventually, Millie managed to break free, painfully. The student told Jaime what he saw. He came to check up on them. Jaime stayed calm, reassured the boy, and sent him back to class without further questions.
You might want to clean up.
At home, tensions boiled over. Millie lashed out, furious at Tim for dragging her into such a disturbing mess.
Have been fired, or worse, like arrested worse.
Their argument grew heated until she stormed out. Seeking space, she found herself at Jaime's door. She apologized for the earlier chaos. The two spoke at length, and eventually Millie opened up. Her relationship with Tim, she confessed, was beginning to unravel.
Since the move, Tim and I haven't been on the same page.
Jaime encouraged Millie not to give up on Tim. When Millie asked if he lived alone, Jaime opened up about a past partner, a man he once loved deeply and lost.
And there was a brief time where I actually did walk away.
He then asked to play their wedding tape. As he gets up to bring the tapes, Millie notices someone watching from outside, Tim peering through the window.
That sounds great, but I should head back.
That night, something strange happened again. Millie appeared to float in her sleep, mirroring Tim's every movement from another room. Alarmed, he rushed in and slapped her awake. Once conscious, they discussed the incident. Tim insisted it was all connected. Ever since the cave, nothing had been normal.
Look, I think something happened to me in the cave. Something that's making me act insane.
Millie wasn't convinced. When Tim suggested returning to the cave to find answers, Millie instead ended their relationship and walked away. Blood she'd accidentally left on the table crept toward him. They chose to sleep apart that night, but not long after, Tim woke up, his body moving on its own, dragged toward Millie's room. As he approached, Millie also came out, limbs twisted unnaturally. When their bodies touched, the pain briefly eased, only for their hands to begin fusing together. Millie scrambled for muscle relaxants from the drawer, and they both swallowed several pills to fight the fusion. Eventually, they blacked out. Morning came. Tim opened his eyes to find himself tied to a chair. Millie was beside him, their arms now stuck together. She handed him whiskey to dull the pain, then with a buzz saw, cut through the fused skin. Bloodied but separated, Millie walks out, intending to drive to the hospital. But as she searched, she realized her car keys were still at Jaime's place.
I think I left them at Jamie's.
Why would you do that?
I didn't do it on purpose.
Meanwhile, Tim returned to the cave, desperate for answers. Back at Jaime's, Millie found the house empty. While wandering through the halls, she came upon a video playing on a screen, a wedding ceremony between two men. One looked just like Jaime. The wedding was in a cage. In the footage, the men weren't simply exchanging vows. They were taking part in a strange ritual. Suddenly, Jaime emerged. He confessed the truth. He wasn't just one man. He was the result of a fusion, the blending of two souls, two bodies. And he claimed this was only the beginning of something greater.
Ultimate intimacy in divine flesh.
Stop it!
Deep in the cave, Tim uncovered something horrifying. People, living bodies, were embedded in the stone, fused into the walls. Among them were two familiar faces, Carrie and Simon, the couple that disappeared, now grotesquely merged into one monstrous form. Elsewhere, Jaime, or whatever he truly was, explained everything. The cult's purpose, he said, was to unite souls into one being. According to him, true wholeness came from losing your individual self. He believed Millie and Tim were meant to be part of that transformation. Without warning, he slashed Millie's wrist, but she fought back, striking him hard across the face. The impact fractured him, quite literally, as his body split into two distinct people.
The god's jealousy has robbed you of your perfect form.
Millie fled, blood trailing. At the same time, Tim also managed to escape. Millie found her way home. There she saw Tim, but before either could react, the invisible force returned, drawing them toward each other again. As they were pulled closer, Tim echoed the very words Millie had once said when their love was simple and sincere. For the first time, he openly admitted how deeply he loved her.
But I f***ing suck and I love you so much.
Tim then decided to end it for himself to stop whatever was happening. Millie, bleeding and weak, showed him her wrist and collapsed into his arms. Tim carried her inside. When she regained consciousness, she saw he had fused his arm with hers to stop the bleeding, sacrificing his body to save her life. They decide to fuse completely. The process was slow and unnatural. That evening, Millie's parents arrived for a planned Sunday dinner. But when the door opened, they weren't greeted by their daughter or her partner. They were met by someone else entirely, a being who bore the features of both Tim and Millie, merged into one unsettlingly perfect form.